Hello, my name is Blazkin, and welcome to my Yoimiya guide video. So in this video, I'll be talking about her builds, her weapons, and a little bit about her team building. And yeah, with that being said, let's just jump right into her kit first. But before we get into the thick of things, a quick friendly reminder to like the video and sub to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. But with that being said, and that out of the way, let's get right back into the video. So Yoimiya is a pyro DPS that really relies on two things: her elemental skill and her normals. So what her elemental skill does is it just makes her normals stronger and infuses them with pyro, and then of course her normals are just normals. She has a kind of irrelevant charged shot, which has three like homing little fireworks, but yeah, not really useful. Her burst is pretty underwhelming. I think that they did this because her weapon wants her to not have her burst up and Yoimiya drains energy, but yeah, this isn't a very impressive burst. The scaling is really low. The AoE on the explosion is really small, and it's just not a very impressive burst. I would use it mostly to dump it, but you know, you can get a little bit of extra damage with this, so you should definitely be using it whenever it's up, especially if you're running Thundering Pulse. With that being said, her build is pretty simple, you know, normal crit damage, attack percent, pyro damage bonus. Yoimiya is definitely her best in-slot artifact set. I don't think there's any argument there. She can't proc enough reactions to make Crimson Witch worth it, so yeah, there's that. As for her weapons, honestly, outside of Elegy, these two are pretty good options, right? Like Amos's bow increases normal attack damage, so that's still really good. Attack percent, high base attack. It's a 5-star weapon stat stack, it's gonna do well. Harp. Honestly speaking, Harp will do fine on her. But here's the interesting thing. Rust exists. This weapon is excellent on her. It should outperform R1 of either of these, honestly. So if you have Rust at R5, perfect. It'll do great. As for her craftable option, Hamayumi is actually really good. Now, this is really a non-bow with the artifact set, but even just, you know, the passive damage increase, even regardless of doubling it, is still barely strong. And considering it's a craftable bow, it's pretty excellent. So yeah, these are her options. You know, I don't think you should even look at other 4-stars because they're not really worth it. So yeah, that's it for her builds. Let's go into team comps. So honestly, for team comps, there's a lot of variety with what you can do. The most obvious one is, you know, Bennett, Kazuha, and then an extra. Pretty good. You can run double Animo to ever so slightly reduce her skill cooldown. Pretty nice. But yeah, that's a pretty basic team comp, I'd say. Definitely highly recommend. It works very well. You can try to use Xingqiu to vape with her, but I think the fact that she has such high internal cooldown really... I don't know if it's too worth it to run Xingqiu, honestly. It hurts to have that high internal cooldown on her normals like that. So you could, but I'm not sure if I would recommend it. Much better with Diluc or Hu Tao, honestly, so yeah. With that being said, she has downtime issues. So there are interesting team comps if you have, say, Child, right? You could run her with Child. That's a really interesting pairing. Child is really good at group DPS, and Yoimiya, of course, excels at single target damage. So they kind of cover each other's weaknesses in that case, you know. They also both have downtime, so you can cover their downtime by switching to one another. That's a fun team, but I don't know if it's too much better than just the normal Bennett Kazuha plus another Animo comp, but it's definitely an interesting team to try out. Turbo Yoimiya. Turbo Yoi, Turbo Mia, I don't know. Somebody's gonna give it a cool name. It's a comp that's just Yoimiya official. Theoretically, it's good because Yoimiya has range, so knockback on overload is not quite as painful. I'd say that this is more of a lower investment comp, you know, IEM stuff, but if you're more in the late game, I think that you're going to get more mileage with Kazuha and Bennett. So I'm going to go ahead then and talk really briefly about her strengths and weaknesses. She's quite good at single target damage, but to be fair, she's not quite as good as Hu Tao, simply because she can't vape all her hits. However, she's more than adequate for Portal of Abyss, so I don't know, I wouldn't worry too much about that. One of her biggest weaknesses, honestly, is that she has so much internal cooldown problems. Like, you can't vape like anything on her because of that, right? Like, you get like 2-3 vapes on her like full normal attack chain. Like, that's pretty bad, especially considering some of those vapes are on 2-hit normals. So, you know, much weaker. So because of that, the normal Pyro plus Shing Cho isn't quite as good for her. The other weakness that she has is that she's single target, which hurts her a lot actually. Honestly speaking, like, Hu Tao is single target as well, but you can actually hit multiple enemies, whereas Yoimiya actually just can't. You can argue that she can with her burst, but the scaling is just so low, it's not really that relevant. And the AoE is tiny, so yeah. With that being said though, that weakness can be kind of mitigated if you're using characters like Venti or Kazuha, you know, a lot of group damage, Child even, right? But it's definitely a weakness to watch out for, and it definitely is relevant. That weakness definitely hurts her on Chamber 1 of this current Abyss, so that's something to watch out for. Future Abysses might not be so friendly, we'll have to see, but yeah. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with her is that her burst is really quite unimpressive. I think that her burst is worth using because it's extra damage and you kind of want to not have energy if you have Thundering Pulse, but overall it's just not very good. I feel like if they wanted to, they could have made the AoE larger and maybe we would have a really interesting off-field pyro application character, but she just can't do that because it doesn't work very well. The AoE is tiny and the duration is very short at C0, and of course, the damage is very unimpressive. So yeah, I had quite a few problems with her, as you could see. If you're interested in me talking about her more, talking about her weaknesses and strengths, comparing her to Hu Tao, definitely go check out my review video for Yoimiya. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.